mean, I really love the number five. I wish five could be my five. If anything, five should be the country's number. Can we make an official number? Five. Five is the number of this guy says. I am totally not stalling.
Lil Wayne dropped the Carter 5 recently, and I gave it a listen and decided to give my initial thoughts. And the reason that I decided to do it in the Sashimi Thoughts format instead of a album Odyssey format was because Lil Wayne exists in a weird space, similar to how this album exists in a weird space for me. When I was younger, wasn't really a huge fan of the mainstream, to put it nicely. And so when you have someone like Lil Wayne, who was super mainstream when I was like younger and just popping everywhere, I never found myself ever listening to a Lil Wayne project. I definitely, if you asked me all those years ago, if I envisioned me now talking about one and listening to one like wholeheartedly through it all with an open mind, that wouldn't have been possible. So it's kind of cool that I got older and was able to let that go. This album existing in a weird space means that it's going to be kind of strange. Like I said, I'm already standing on the outskirts of like the fandom that is super pumped for this and have been waiting. But the reason that this album exists in a weird space, not just for me, but probably for fans, is that it's kind of time displaced in the fact that this was apparently supposed to be released way earlier, like about like 3 something years ago earlier, I believe. I'm not sure. All I understand is that there was a feud between Birdman and Lil Wayne, and there was some business structure issues, financial issues, and contract debates of which I could not tell you the history or context of. I just know that that was what was keeping this album from being released. And so with it finally released, we're able to, I guess, see a Lil Wayne from that time, but also Lil Wayne from this time. The reason I say that is because this has been updated. There are certain changes of which could make it obvious. The first thing, XXX is on this album, and that's how I obviously figured out that not only was this released in 2018, but there was obviously some updates. The weird thing about X being on this album is that it seems like literally everyone is using him posthumously. It's pretty strange to me, just because he died only, I want to say, like a month ago, and it just seems like everybody is using his voice in some format, whether it be for a chorus or a verse that he somehow recorded. I mean, literally just last week we had the song with him and other recently deceased rapper Lil Peep. It was just really odd to see him get used, and not only that, but like he's going to be on the Kanye album as well. And I don't know, it just, even if it was like a rapper that I personally like was a fan of, like Mac Miller, even if he was being used this way, I would still feel weird about it. It's just an odd thing that I noticed, because he's on, like, X is on the first song after we get Lil Wayne's mom, who in a very heart-wrenching fashion talks about Lil Wayne's like basically come up as an adult and how he got this far and how proud she is of him. So I think that can strike a chord with anyone, whether you're a Lil Wayne fan or not. X on this album, he's here even though he's not here. It was just weird how everyone seems to be doing that. Other things that I found interesting about this album, Nicki Minaj can sing. I didn't know that. Again, like I said, that's probably more my fault than like anybody else's, because I was already not a fan of the mainstream, but then her style has not been something that I like too much, so my fault mostly. Mona Lisa was one song that everybody is in love with for whatever reason. They are saying that it is lyrically dense, it's awesome, it's bar city, but it's kind of not really. When I listened to it, the highlight of it was when Kendrick switched up his voice, and I just started laughing. I was dying. It was hilarious, even though the story is something that, you know, is kind of sad for that person. It was just pretty funny how they turned it into a almost humorous situation, even though it's pretty kind of messed up. The guy like kills himself at the end. Spoiler alert if you didn't know. But it's just like, I don't know, the way that they did it, I just found it really funny. If you want one that's, I guess, more lyrically dense than this, if you're like looking for one like this, I personally immediately thought of MF Doom's Hoe Cakes, and I was like, well, if you want the story version of this done better, you can just listen to that one. I personally think that MF Doom did this type of story where the guy is being hustled by his cheating girlfriend's like actual guy, I guess. I don't know what the terms are for that, but like basically he's getting like screwed over by like his girlfriend, who's actually with this other dude who's trying to rob the guy. And so yeah, if you want a story version of that, MF Doom's Hoe Cakes is what I've listened to for that, even though I don't know what mood you'd be in. Just be like, I want to listen to this very niche situation. I loved Uproar. That joint is lit. It's a banger. It's fun. I like it. Most of this album was Lil Wayne meditating on not only love, but also the dangers of his fame, and also how he's dealt with his drug abuse, and all these different like very tense scenarios in his life of which he's made it through. And you really get that. You really get the essence of that at the very end when he's like, not only does his mom's voice show up again, but he also talks about like how he had a conversation with God and he almost committed suicide, and he called his aunt. Like, you feel like that one was the most like intense Lil Wayne I've ever heard ever. But again, I've only listened to so much of Lil Wayne, but you can really feel that like that was gut wrenching. Like it really gets you. Overall, as an album, I think that this album was, pretty good. I don't think it was trash, and I don't think it was amazing, but I think that, I'm sure Lil Wayne fans, and I think I need to just mention that one more time. I was never a fan of Lil Wayne. I've always existed on the outskirts of it, and now that I've kind of gotten more of an open mind as I've gotten older, I decided to just take a listen, just as a person who doesn't really have any context of the older Carter, the Carter, not trilogy, but I don't know the word for 4, but the Carter trilogy plus 1. And I think that for me, this album is just something that, I can enjoy. I'm not going to be replaying the whole thing over and over again, but there are songs here and there that I can pick out of it. Like I said, for people who have been waiting for this, who are huge fans of him, this is finally. So I'm sure they're enjoying their bursts of euphoria, and I'm happy that they get to enjoy something like that. Carter 5, it was an experience, and I didn't mind it. Thanks, Lil Wayne. Thanks. Well, this guy says, if you're ever in need of a great versatile number, pick 5. Or you can also give the Carter a high 5. See, you get it? Because the number